Hello, I'm Maciej Mikos and you're watching World Talks. The Assad regime in Syria has fallen after rebels stunned the world by taking control over vast parts of the country, with the capital city, Damascus itself. President Bashar al-Assad has fled the city. What does the surprising victory mean for the region, and what consequences may it have for Europe as well? To discuss these issues, we're joined by Ellias Aghili Dehnavi from the Al-Assad Foundation Fund. Good evening.
Good evening, and thank you so much for inviting me again to a wonderful World Talk program.
Thank you for accepting our invitation. Always welcome. So, who celebrates today in Syria, and who should be rather worried about the current situation?
Well, the Middle East never stops to surprise us. I mean, wherever we are living, the dynamics in this region are beyond being mesmerizing. So, this very interesting question can have different answers, but to be precisely short, I should say that the Republic of Turkey is one of the most players that is happy about the consequences of the recent events. Based on the ground facts and also evidences, the Republic of Turkey has backed HTS rebels, or now they're called liberators of Syria, to take control of the most strategic cities of this country. The second happy group of countries or players in the region can be, the Western allied country who were fighting against the axis of resistance. The United States, some countries in the European Union, and also, specifically speaking, Israel. Because Israel was really concerned regarding the Iranian influence over Syria and Assad regime.
So those two can celebrate, and who should be rather concerned about the events?
Of course, the Russian Federation and Islamic Republic of Iran are the two countries that are watching and monitoring the events with a proportional amount of concern. The Iranian government is concerned because of its logistic position in Syria and their strategic alliance with Assad regime. Because Syria, specifically the previous regime, was one of the most important, elements of the axis of resistance. The Iranians could use this channel to send their military supports to Hezbollah in Lebanon. And now that position has been endangered. The Russian Federation, on the other hand, or let's say on the other side of the island, they have two important strategic bases in two important ports in Syria, Latakia and Tartus. They have important naval bases in the western part of Syria. Besides, they had a strategic cooperation with the central government of Syria. I should also mention that the Russian Federation military camps in Syria is one of the biggest military camps that this country has been enjoying after the collapse of the United Soviet of Socialistic Republic. So the Russians really don't want to lose that strategic position.
Mm-hmm. Surprisingly, you've mentioned all the actors in the region apart from the Syrians themselves. And here is the key question: whether civilians should feel safe.
Well, the mechanism within the domestic arena of Syria is really complicated. The western part of the Syria is being now dominated by what we call Hayat al-Tahrir al-Sham, or HDS. The eastern part is being controlled by the Kurds, supported by the United States. In between, in the Syrian deserts, the remnants of the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria is still wandering around. So the people now, if you're talking about the society that is still in a mere state of shock, because there are different domestic elements and players playing in this ground, in this chaotic ground. In the northern parts of the country, we have this Syrian free army from the southern cities, and then there is this democratic Syrian army that is supported by the Republic of Turkey, and all these players are acting simultaneously. The people, for the moment, just know that they have been freed of a dictatorship, so they are happy, but they are not well aware of the future consequences. Because HTS or other groups that have fought against the dictatorship of Bashar al-Assad have used to be among the fundamentalist fighters. Like in 2011, Tahrir al-Sham was kind of in an important alliance with ISIS. After 2011, they broke ranks and they tried to hedge and soften their stances. And now some people, even in Syria, Damascus, or other important cities, are monitoring things with a high amount of concern. We have to wait and see, are they true to their actions and votes?
But given the fact that they have been dubbed Islamist fundamentalists, as you said, and the fact that Israel has already sent its troops to the border, should we expect a rapid escalation in the coming days?
Well, the condition is, real fragile, and at the moment they don't have the necessary, capabilities to launch any attack or immediate threat toward Israel. And Israelis have already launched some attacks yesterday morning in the northern and southern parts of Syria. They have deliberately attacked the arsenals of the Syrian army because they were afraid that the rebels would take control of these arsenals and use it against the Israelis' interests, and also they might pose some geopolitics threats toward Israel. And the Israel has also launched some attack against the remnants of the Hezbollah fighters who wanted to flee towards Lebanon. But at the moment, the condition is too fragile and chaotic. So based on my perception and based on the ground facts and evidences, the current group or other, fighting groups do not have the necessary capabilities to pose any threats towards the security and interests of Israel.
Now, could there be any counter-revolution? I mean, what happened to all the government forces? Because the pace of the rebel offensive has been absolutely stunning. It was a true blitz. So what happened with all the soldiers that were meant to protect Bashar al-Assad? Where are they?
Well, I have coined this term, the void of power in the Middle East. Whenever there is a void of power in the Middle East, even historically, we can see a renaissance. For Afghanistan, it was a renaissance, but not for the better, a renaissance for the worse. Because we see that after the Americans evacuated this country, the Taliban forces started to proceed and advance without any specific resistance from the counterfighters. The same thing has happened in Syria. We see that the head of the Iranian, the previous head of the Iranian parliament visited Bashar al-Assad just some days before all this, chaos started to happen. There are some evidences stating that the Russian Federation and the Islamic Republic of Iran had already had some negotiation with the regional powers, including Republic of Turkey and outer great powers like the United States, to reach some deals. Because this is indeed surprising that all this money, all this resistance that had taken place previously to fight ISIS, or all of these opposing groups, have kind of vaporized. So this is technically a realistic deal because we know that from a realism perspective, all these political games are sub-zero games. If one side wins, the other side might lose. So the regional powers don't want to be the losers. They want to benefit. Whenever there is a void of power, they start to reestablish their strategies again. For the Iranians, on one side, if a strong central government come to power, then it's a threat because they cannot impose their previous control and monitoring over the central government. Bashar al-Assad was their friend. Who knows about the new government? And for the Russian, the same thing. If the central government is strong, they cannot continue their manipulation of the central government. So it's really important that who fills this void of power. And of course, definitely, there might be some counter-revolutionary incidents and movements. Let's hope that not the same thing that happened in Libya take place in Syria, because Syria's position is fundamentally crucial for the security of Europe, Israel, and also the Republic of Turkey and Central.
As you've already mentioned, Europe, Syria has been, the situation in Syria, the prolonged conflict in Syria has been one of, let's say, triggering factors to cause all the migration crisis in Europe. Now, we've already seen pictures of people going back to Syria, celebrating the current rebel victory. But is this what we should expect, or rather another episode of this mass exodus from Syria?
Well, it all depends on the manifesto that the current, let's say, fighting groups or liberating groups or whatsoever they're calling them, because I mean the words are not sufficient to describe the reality or the nature of these groups. So I avoid, to just choose a concise word to describe these groups. But it's really important to see the manifesto and actions of these groups. If they try to kind of conduct the law of Sharia or Sharia law, like what we are seeing in Afghanistan, or what the ISIS was trying to implement, definitely we will have a new crisis of immigrants towards Europe. So this is the first threat. The second threat is more closely related to the security. If these fighters take control, and if they want to still implement their zealotry religious ideology, we might see some sort of security, leaks or breaches in the European Union, starting from the Eastern Europe. The fighters might penetrate, and we will also have some border problems, because we know that the Russians were using the immigrants and are still using them, and they're trying to kind of forge them as immigrants and trying to send them, for instance, from the Belarusian border to Poland, causing problems for almost a long time. So these are real and imminent problems that might happen, but that is not the case. For the moment that we are speaking. For the moment, there is a matter of constitution, counter-revolutionary or counter-fighting events, or even a more severe civil war, because this time there will be a real interplay of great powers and also regional powers who might start to conflict directly.
Let's hope it doesn't come to that. But still, we have way more questions than answers about the recent situation in Syria. Ellias Aghili Dehnavi from the al-Assad Foundation founder was our guest tonight. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome, and thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you. And thank you for watching, and stay with us for much more here on TVP World.